During World War II, one aircraft became the symbol of Britain's air power, the legendary Supermarine Spitfire. This fighter plane was a favorite among pilots and widely regarded as a war-winning machine due to its exceptional speed and maneuverability, but despite its fearsome reputation, the Spitfire had a critical flaw. Its engine had a tendency to fail at the worst possible moments, especially during intense dogfights with German aircraft when pilots executed steep dives. Meanwhile, Germany's Luftwaffe had the Messerschmitt Bf 109, which didn't suffer from this issue, giving German pilots a significant edge in aerial combat. Britain barely managed to survive the Battle of Britain, and one of the biggest reasons was the Spitfire's engine problem. If Britain wanted a decisive victory in the war, solving this bizarre issue wasn't just important, it was essential. The British threw everything at the problem. Some of the greatest engineering minds of the time were tasked with finding a solution, yet nothing seemed to work. Then, in a surprising turn of events, an unlikely hero emerged, an engineer named Beatrice Shilling. But what exactly did she do that made her one of the unsung heroes of World War II? The issue with the Spitfire's Rolls-Royce Merlin engine had been discovered as early as 1938, but back then, it wasn't seen as a major concern since extreme dives were rare. However, by 1940, during the peak of the Battle of Britain, it had become a life-or-death situation. The problem was even more alarming because over 20,000 Spitfires had already been manufactured, all equipped with the same faulty engine. Even worse, other British fighter planes like the Hawker Hurricane and the Bolton-Paul Defiant also used the same engine, meaning a large portion of Britain's Air Force was flying with a flawed design. By 1940, Britain and France were engaged in an intense struggle against Nazi Germany. Every time German Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters entered Allied airspace, British Spitfires were scrambled to intercept them. In these chaotic dogfights, pilots had to pull off extreme maneuvers, suddenly diving or climbing to dodge enemy fire. Success in battle depended on these high-speed reactions. But imagine being in the middle of a fierce dogfight, attempting a critical dive, and suddenly your engine cuts out. That's exactly what was happening to British pilots. Luckily, Britain had one advantage: its fuel supply was nearby, allowing Spitfires to stay in combat longer. In contrast, German pilots had to cross the English Channel, fight, and then return to refuel. This logistical challenge helped the British hold their ground despite the Spitfire's engine defect. However, the war wasn't going to be won on luck alone. The flaw in the Spitfire's engine was caused by a simple physics problem. When the plane dove sharply, gravity pulled the fuel inside the carburetor away from the outlets, causing the engine to sputter or completely shut down. Desperate for a solution, Britain enlisted some of its top engineers, including Sir Cyril Lovesey from Rolls-Royce and Eddie Fisher from the Royal Aircraft Establishment. They came up with complex technical fixes, but none fully resolved the issue. In fact, some of their solutions even introduced new problems. That's when Beatrice Shilling stepped in. Surprisingly, she wasn't originally an aircraft engineer. Her expertise was in high-speed motorcycles. Back in 1938, while the first Spitfire test flights were taking place, Shilling was busy modifying her own 490cc Norton motorcycle. She raced on the Brooklyn circuit, becoming one of the fastest female riders of her time. Her passion for mechanics began early. In 1919, at just 10 years old, she noticed that her older sisters could go on long cycling trips while she was left behind. Determined not to be excluded, she saved up to buy a motorcycle. By age 14, she achieved her goal, purchasing a two-stroke Royal Enfield. Over time, she started fixing and modifying her motorcycle herself. By the age of 15, she had made up her mind she wanted to be an engineer. But this was 1924, a time when society didn't even consider women as engineers. With support from the Women's Engineering Society, she gained admission to the University of Manchester's Electrical Engineering Department in 1929, becoming the first woman to enroll. Later, she took courses in thermodynamics and mechanical engineering, her true passion. She wasn't just a brilliant engineer, she was a fearless racer, competing against men and even modifying her motorcycle's carburetor for better speed and efficiency. This expertise would later make her the perfect person to solve the Spitfire's fatal flaw. By the time the war started, Shilling had already spent 3 years working at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Initially, she was assigned technical documentation work, but by November 1939, after several promotions, she became a technical officer in charge of aircraft carburetor research and development. When Rolls-Royce engineers failed to fix the Spitfire's engine, Shilling requested permission to take on the challenge herself. Many doubted her. After all, she was a woman in a male-dominated field, but within just a few days, she not only identified the problem, but also designed a shockingly simple solution. One that was so effective that the authorities laughed at themselves for not thinking of it sooner. So what was her fix? Shilling created a small brass restrictor plate with a precisely measured hole. When installed in the carburetor, it prevented fuel from shifting away from the outlet during steep dives, keeping the engine running smoothly. The best part, it was so easy to install that it could be fitted into Spitfires while they were still on the ground, with no need for complex modification. But there was still one problem: how to quickly distribute the fix across Britain's air bases. Instead of waiting, Shilling took matters into her own hands, riding her Norton motorcycle from base to base, personally installing the device in Spitfire Spitfire and Hurricane fighters. Her invention became known as Miss Shilling's Orifice and significantly reduced engine failures in combat. Though it didn't completely eliminate the issue, it was enough to keep British pilots in the fight. Later, she developed a brand new carburetor for the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, permanently solving the problem. After the war, pilots credited her invention as a key factor in Britain's victory. In recognition of her contributions, she was awarded the Order of the British Empire, OBE. But Beatrice Shilling's journey didn't end there. Instead of retiring, she continued working on cutting-edge military projects, including rocket propulsion, ramjets, and guided weapon systems. By 1955, she was promoted to Senior Principal Scientific Officer at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Shilling wasn't just an engineer, she was a trailblazer, proving that determination and skill matter more than gender. Even today, historians believe that if not for her brilliant mind and fearless determination, the world map might have looked very different. The world is full of mysteries and we bring them to light. If you love uncovering hidden truths and mind-blowing stories like this, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Unseen Mysteries. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode of history's greatest secrets. More incredible stories are coming your way.